mind, but the news was just announced that WNBA TV ratings are down more than 50% since Caitlin Clark's injury. And it was also reported that the Indiana Fever television viewership is also down over 53%. Now, I know a lot of us were expecting some sort of dip since Caitlin Clark has been out with injury, but I don't think all of us were expecting the entire viewership of the entire WNBA.
Without Caitlin Clark, the WNBA didn't just lose a player, it lost its engine. Viewership didn't dip, it crashed hard. Since Clark went down, the league has seen a jaw-dropping 55% drop in national TV rating, with her own team, the Indiana Fever, losing over half its audience, a brutal 53% plunge. To put it bluntly, WNBA without Caitlin Clark has started to feel like Netflix without Wi-Fi, unwatchable and empty. And yet this might just be the most revealing moment in the league's history. Because what happens when your biggest star is out of the spotlight? What happens when the momentum of an entire sport is put on pause? The fallout is already showing, and it's way deeper than anyone expected. Before we go further, hit that like button and subscribe, because what we uncover in this video goes beyond box scores and broadcast numbers. It's about the future of an entire league.
Is there any chance that the WNBA, that Kathy Engelbert saw some of the ratings that I'm about to show you now and said, hey, Indiana Fever, can you do us a favor? Can you do us a solid? Can you just tease a Caitlin Clark return, kind of boost these up a little bit? Can you just dangle a Caitlin Clark return in front of the fans' faces, try to boost these ratings up a little bit? There was one matchup that this league can consistently rely on to produce massive viewership numbers.
It didn't take long. The moment Caitlin Clark stepped off the court, so did the fans, not in slow motion, overnight. Ratings free fell across the board, and for many viewers, it wasn't just about missing one player. It was about missing the reason they tuned in to begin with. Clark had become more than just a rookie. She was the storyline. Every game felt like an event. Highlights went viral. Debates lit up social media. But without her, the spark fizzled. Viewers didn't just walk away. They ghosted the league. Ratings for games without her plummeted by over 50%, and suddenly matchups that once drew national buzz barely registered a pulse.
A shocker. Imagine my surprise. Just imagine my surprise when Uncle KC found out that the WNBA is struggling to maintain their ratings without Caitlin Clark. To make matters worse, and this is something I have definitely noticed in the last 3 or 4 weeks, especially since the All-Star game, the WNBA seems to be struggling to maintain interest.
So where did they all go? Some tuned into Olympic coverage, others shifted to pickleball finals, UFC prelims, or just doom scrolled through Instagram. And plenty probably didn't even realize the games were still happening. The truth is, the WNBA hasn't built enough stories outside of Clark to keep new fans watching. Once she was gone, so was the hook. And here's the twist, some fans believe the league itself is to blame. Stick around, because what happens next reveals just how deep this problem goes.
When I think about Caitlin Clark, the operative word that comes to my mind is gratitude. There's an incredible level of gratitude that should be accorded to this young lady with what she did for the sport.
How was the attendance for Team USA in the Olympics? What would it have been like if Caitlin Clark was playing on that team? Remember the first game? Look at this right here. National broadcast viewership. What are we talking about here? 1,000, what is that? 1.219? Is that the number? And the game afterwards got 485,000. So the Fever in their game against the Minnesota Lynx was 1.219 million.
It's not just hype. Caitlin Clark is a once-in-a-generation draw. She didn't just bring fans to the WNBA, she brought eyeballs that had never looked this way before. She's been compared to Taylor Swift, called a ratings cheat code, and even listed as the 4th most popular basketball player on the planet, behind LeBron, Steph, and KD. That's not just impressive, that's unprecedented.
WNBA's black superstars should thank their lucky stars for the record ratings Caitlin Clark is detonating, even if new fans are mostly white fans. It doesn't matter what color eyeballs are. But the other day, I must admit, it hit me like Katie Bell Henderson telling me that's enough. I told myself it's not racist for me to like Caitlin.
Her college games broke attendance and TV records. Her WNBA debut, historic. Overnight, arenas were sold out, jerseys were flying off shelves, and highlight reels were getting millions of views across TikTok, X, and YouTube. It was Clark versus everyone, and the world couldn't look away. But her pull wasn't just about scoring. It was her presence, her confidence, her trash talk, her it factor. She made every game feel like a must-watch, even if you didn't know who else was on the court. She turned casual browsers into hardcore viewers. Even those who swore they'd never watch the WNBA were watching the WNBA. When she got injured, the WNBA didn't just lose a player, it lost momentum. She wasn't just their star, she was their storyline.
The WNBA has a problem, and that problem is Caitlin Clark not playing in WNBA games. Now, what all does this affect? The ratings are plummeting. Guys, there's ratings for a couple of these games that are eye-poppingly.
Here's the plot twist no one saw coming. While TV ratings crashed, in-person attendance skyrocketed. In fact, the WNBA just smashed its own all-time attendance record with over 2.43 million fans showing up to games this season. That beats the league's previous high set way back in 2002. Yes, even without Clark playing every night, fans kept packing arenas. How is that possible? The answer lies in the ripple effect Caitlin Clark triggered. When she entered the league, ticket sales exploded across the board, not just for Fever games, but for every team she faced. Her presence elevated the entire schedule, and those early waves kept rolling even after her injury. People who had never stepped foot in a WNBA arena were suddenly buying season passes, wearing team merch, and bringing their families to see the action live.
That's not a trend that the WNBA is excited about. That's a trend that Kathy Engelbert would say, hey, Fever, hey, Lynn Dunn, hey, Kelly, hey, Amber, can you guys start dangling that Caitlin Clark return like you used to do? You know, before Caitlin Clark gave a statement and you guys were hands off. Can you guys, just string them along a little bit more? We want to get these ratings back up. We want to get these numbers back.
And let's be real, there's something powerful about being in the building. The energy, the chants, the spectacle. Even fans who didn't grow up watching the league suddenly wanted to say, I was there. So yes, the cameras might be catching fewer eyeballs, but inside the arenas, the WNBA is louder than ever. But not everything is as steady as it seems. Because just as fans were filling seats, something else was slipping, and it's not just about Caitlin. Let's talk about the All-Star game.
At Indiana, against the Chicago Sky, right after that game, they opened an investigation once again into the fans, where they found nothing, but the damage had already been done at that point. If some of these things happen just one time here and there, or there's one certain media personality who's just always saying these kind of things, then whatever. I feel like fans as a whole can be like, okay, whatever, this person is just a hater. But this is something that has happened over and over and over again, and over time it starts chipping away at how much you're going to actually care and want to support an organization if they continue to do things like that.
The All-Star Game was supposed to be a celebration, a showcase of the league's brightest stars. But this year, with Caitlin Clark left off the roster, something felt off. The energy dipped, the buzz cooled. And when the final numbers came in, the result was hard to ignore. Ratings were down 36% from the previous year. Now, in isolation, that sounds brutal. But here's the twist. It was still the second most watched WNBA All-Star Game of all time. In other words, even in a bad year, the league was still pulling numbers it used to only dream about.
Caitlin Clark thing, man. I mean, it's embarrassing. It is embarrassing what you guys have done. And then people are catching on to your tactics. You got the people on Twitter catching on to your tactics. Like, look at this right here. Look at this right here. They say ESPN didn't want to show the ratings were down from WNBA All-Star Game because Caitlin Clark did.
It's proof of something bigger. Clark might be the engine, but she's not the whole car. The league has momentum, maybe not as much as it would with her playing every night, but enough to show that something real is shifting. The new fans didn't all disappear. Some stuck around, others are just waiting for the next spark. And whether the league knows it or not, the clock is ticking to figure out how to keep that spark alive, especially with the playoffs looming and headlines starting to fade. Which brings us to something even more critical. Can the WNBA survive or thrive without being a one-player league? Let's talk about who's stepping up next.
Rhodes, well, how about this? Pay us what you owe us. That looks like a ham sandwich and some Lay's tater chips right now. It's getting bad. I feel bad for Caitlin Clark. She come out and said on Sue Bird's podcast that she's feeling the pressure of not playing in these games. And that Fever Sky viewership fell off the map.
The WNBA's fate can't hang on just one person, not even Caitlin Clark, and deep down, the league knows it. That's why, even in the middle of the ratings slump, something bigger is quietly taking shape. Enter Angel Reese. She's not just Clark's rival, she's a ratings force in her own right. Her games have sparked viral moments, fan debates, and sold-out crowds. Then there's Aja Wilson, a two-time MVP who's finally starting to get the national recognition she deserves. Add in up-and-coming names like Paige Buchers, who's still in college but already drawing headlines, and Cameron Brink, who brings swagger and highlight blocks every night.
Good news and some bad news for those who are fans of pretend basketball. For those who are desperate to see the WNBA succeed, even though this dump of a league can't seem to get the hell out of their own way. Now, the WNBA, they refer to these people as fans, but the rest of us, we prefer to call them the mainstream media.
This new wave of talent is louder, bolder, and more marketable than ever. The rivalries are real, the personalities are big, and the drama, it's practically writing itself. The league has a golden opportunity if they can figure out how to market the storylines beyond Clark. And it's not just about players. The WNBA is expanding. New teams, new cities, new ownership groups with deep pockets. They're betting on a future where women's basketball isn't a niche, it's a main event. But to get there, they have to solve a critical puzzle. How do you turn casual Clark fans into long-term WNBA fans? That's the make or break moment, and how the league answers that question will define the next decade of women's sports. Because Caitlin Clark may have lit the fire, but what happens next will decide whether it burns out or becomes a blaze.
You see, this is exactly what we were talking about. WNBA All-Star ratings are in for 2025, and it is down 40%. 40% from last year. That's bad. That is really bad. We already watched the ticket prices drop by more than 50% because Caitlin Clark was not playing. This is bad news for the WNBA.
This season didn't just reveal Caitlin Clark's power, it exposed the WNBA's reality. The truth is, one star can spark change, but no single player can carry an entire league forever. When Clark went down, so did the ratings, the buzz, and the casual fandom. But what remained? The packed arenas, the heated rivalries, the all-star flashes of brilliance proved something important. The WNBA can grow. It just needs to stop acting like it already has.
All of you guys can sit there and say, oh, you guys are just trying to uplift one player. Oh, the league is more than one. I agree, the league is more than one player. It's more than one good basketball player. But is there more than one player that moves the tide? No.
This was supposed to be the year the league stepped out of the shadows. Instead, it tripped over its own hype. But here's the upside. Now the blueprint is clear. Build around Clark. Yes, but elevate the rest. Tell better stories. Market the rivalries. Lean into the chaos. And most of all, make sure the next time a star sits out, the show doesn't stop. Because the WNBA is closer than ever to something huge. But if it wants to become a permanent part of the mainstream, it can't just count on one name to do all the heavy lifting. If you're still watching, you're part of that change. Hit that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts on Clark, Reese, or this wild season, and subscribe if you want to see the next twist before it hits the headlines.